So we have Heather here with us. She came to Interlinked Wellness with symptoms that most of you are experiencing during perimenopause, and she was
Mhm.
doing all the right things. She was working out, she was eating well, and yet not really getting the results that you would expect.
Mhm.
A little bit of guidance and a little bit of patience, a whisper of hope. Heather had a transformational experience, and I would love to bring her in so she can tell us all about it herself. Heather, could you tell us what you initially came in with? What complaints were you having before we started even working together?
So for me, my body has always been something I've felt I was very in sync with. I could feel an illness coming on. I was just always very aware of my body in all different ways. And so when I started having various symptoms, it caught me off guard. And I was trying to be gracious with myself and understanding that I was aging. At the time, I had just hit 40. And I had actually never heard of perimenopause. So that was a whole rabbit hole that I dove down and just trying to understand what my body was needing, what I was working through. And I had a slew of symptoms, brain fog. I had consistent headaches, weight gain, depression, um, soreness all throughout my body. There was just a lot of symptoms I was experiencing. And so I started going to my doctor. I'm someone who's always done yearly checks, but things started to shift for me when I realized that these general checkups were just a quick blood pressure, how are you feeling, and then send you on your way. And so the first doctor I saw, she told me to incorporate more avocado into my diet. And
Have to
so
tell me. I was hoping you would bring up the avocado story. Why did they say just add in more avocado? Did they say like, oh, looking at your blood work, that's what you need? Or
yeah. Well, and we have like my brother-in-law is a doctor. So I felt like I had access to medical
great care?
information.
Yeah.
And and yet I started looking at care
Mhm.
from practitioners through a different lens. And so when they said that to me, my response was, okay, well, tell me more about that. Like, why are you showing I need that? And she said, well, based on your labs that we ran, it shows you're a little deficient in these areas. You
Mhm.
could benefit from more avocado.
Yeah.
And so I was trying not to be smart with her. I wanted to respect the space, but I said, well, I literally have half an avocado a day. I suppose I could incorporate a whole one. Like that was the only thing I
We're
could think
open to it.
of. At this point, I'm like, okay, like if that's really the
Yeah.
fix that I need, then yes, let's do it. So a year passes and symptoms continue to increase and get worse and worse. And my body started to feel like a stranger to me, which was really discouraging because, like you had mentioned in the beginning, I thought I was doing all the right things. And I was almost having this battle with myself of I give you nutritional food. I give you plenty of water, plenty of sleep. I give you exercise X amount of times a week. What more do you want from me?
Exactly.
And so it just felt like this experience of my body trying to tell me something, and I was trying really hard to listen, and yet nothing. I wasn't seeing any changes. So I went to see the second doctor, and she ran labs and told me everything was in range. And so at this point, I'm even going with recommended doctors. Like, who do you trust?
Yeah.
Because I just felt like the whole avocado thing was just not what I
Absolutely.
was looking for. And so I'm going with recommended doctors at this point and still trying to work within network
Mhm.
because, you know, that whole
Insurance.
soapbox. So I went to this other doctor that was recommended, and she's like, you're great. Like, all your labs are within range. And I still felt like there has to be something wrong.
Isn't that the
So,
most frustrating part when you're told everything's normal and you're like, the what
yeah.
is this? Is it in my
And what
head?
is this?
Am I going crazy? This is such a
Yeah.
common complaint that a lot of women have coming in. The labs aren't showing what they're feeling. But when you
Yeah.
compare the blood work, they didn't do that many labs compared to like what we did together, right?
No, no, not even close. Well, and what you had said was there's this base level of labs that they run or are required to run, and then it's not a deeper dive.
Very minimal.
And so I think that's what I was getting. And I don't think it was intentional, but there was a form of gaslighting going on of you're fine.
Yeah.
This is just
You.
aging or just like part of the
You're
process. And then
stressed.
I didn't help myself by going on social media. I would go on anonymously and I would say, these are my symptoms. Is anyone else experiencing this? And the amount of people who came on
Mhm.
coming at me almost like, you're getting older, deal with it. All of this is normal. Just pipe down and move on. Like, stop with the whining. And that was really, really hard for me. And I just realized that that was the moment for me when I started going online anonymously and like asking for tips and tricks. Like, can anyone give me any guidance? I feel like I'm trying everything I can. That was when I realized that I had to fight this myself, that no one was going to assist me or help me. I had to find the right answers and keep pushing forward until I found them. And so it gave me a powerful drive, but I was still in a place where I didn't have answers.
Yeah.
So I went to the third doctor, and these are all different doctors over the
I
course of
know
like
you've
three and a
been
half years.
suffering for a few years.
Yeah, it was 3.5
Yeah.
years before I met with you. And so this third doctor, she ran labs, and I told her, these are my symptoms that I'm experiencing. Can we run deeper labs?
Absolutely.
Because I know something's going on. And she sent me, it was a lot of outsourcing. So she sent me to a physical therapist to work through some of the pains I was experiencing and the
Okay.
headaches, which that was helpful. I had found out that the way I was working out was contributing to strain in my neck, ultimately giving me headaches. So I was grateful for that. But it wasn't addressing the 7 other symptoms I was feeling. And then there was even a point where she said, your estrogen is a bit elevated. And so we think you have breast cancer. So I'm going to send you to get exams, to get ultrasounds, all the things.
That's
And so,
terrifying. You're like, oh, the dreaded C, but okay, let's do it.
well, because I had a situation,
Yeah,
it's been 8 years now where I did have some issues with that. And so to then have them say that, and you're trusting these
of
professionals at
course.
this point, like,
Yeah.
well, gosh, if you're saying it, then there's a strong chance they do. And so I left that office with all of these referrals and additional appointments I needed to make. I went forward with those appointments and got all those done. And then, 3 weeks, a month go by, and they're like, we have your results. You don't have anything. You're clean and clear. You're good. And so I felt very grateful
Of course.
that I didn't have that. But then I was still back to this space of like, okay, then what is it? So this was 3.5 years at this point where I decided, you know what, I'm going to go the holistic route because nothing else is working. And I actually interviewed you and 2 other doctors. And at this point, was just praying for wisdom because you all were great and cared, and you went the holistic route because you wanted to help people dive deeper and find the answers. And ultimately, I chose you because I felt like it was not a transaction for you. And I felt like you saw me where I was
Thank you.
and saw that I had little to no hope left. And I remember telling you that, like, I don't believe that anything will come from this, but this is really just my last resort. And I'm going to try it out and see what happens. And you said, just give me some time. I promise we'll fix everything. And
You had to have the trust and the patience to see that through because once you've
yeah,
tried all these things and you're like, I'm hitting a wall, it's really challenging to still hold on to that hope that there is actually light at the end of the
it was
tunnel
so
and
hard.
that's not a
I
train
think I
coming at
cried.
you.
I
And
think I remember crying
you
and
did.
telling you, like,
And
I don't
you
think
have
that
to
this is going to work
release
out.
all of that because you've been holding all of that in. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. Like, someone tell me something. That's something
Yeah.
they don't really talk about. When you go into all of these practitioners, they're like, you look great. Everything's normal. You're like, I need something to say it's not normal. I need an
Yeah.
answer to why I'm feeling this way.
Yeah. I wanted someone to tell me,
Tell me something's
this is what's
wrong.
wrong with you.
And then
And then
fix
I'd be like,
it.
great, let's deal with it. Let's move
Yes,
on. And no one
absolutely.
was saying that. They're like, you're great, you're within range. And I was like, I don't agree with you. And I don't believe that. So it was really, really challenging and it was really hard. And it was just this space I've never been in. Um, and then, even sharing my story with others, so many women are in my space and have been in my space. And so it was encouraging, but frustrating at the same time of like, what are we doing as humans, if we're dismissing these feelings that literally every single woman will go through,
Absolutely.
perimenopause and
Yeah.
menopause, yet
No
we're
one teaches
dismissing
us what to
these
look
symptoms,
forward to.
itchy ears, like that's
I was telling my
driving me
husband about
bonkers.
that. I'm like, the itching and the ringing, it's such a
Yeah,
weird symptom, but some women have it. And so when you say that, they're like,
yeah,
that. And not everyone
yeah.
experiences it. But yeah,
No,
they
every
don't teach
woman is
us,
different.
they don't prepare us for this. And
Hmm.
like you said, all of us are going to go through it. So it's like,
Hmm.
how can we get on top of these symptoms where we can still have a high quality life
Yeah.
and not just suck it up, put your big
Hmm.
girl panties on and push through. It's like, well, I want you to feel amazing, not miserable throughout this.
But
Yeah,
I realized there's just so many people who are content with feeling mediocre,
that's true.
and they dismiss themselves and what their body's telling them because they don't have the resources or the time or the finances or whatever it might be to get those answers.
Or they
And
refuse to accept
not that I had all of that
gaslighting.
on a platter in front of me, but I was like, I will do whatever it takes to figure this out because I don't want to feel this way the rest of my life.
But honestly, Heather, though, even doing the labs, like that wasn't that difficult. We just looked
Mm-hmm.
at a broader spectrum of labs that actually gave us more insight what was happening inside the body.
Yeah.
Perimenopause or hormonal shifts, it's not just hormones. It has a domino effect on the entire body. So if something is off the hormones, everything else starts to fall apart. So if you're not
Yeah.
looking at those things, we're missing clues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did your labs, we did some
Mm-hmm.
gut testing. Tell me about afterwards. How did that, what did you do while we worked together? And let's go from there.
So we ran a deeper level of labs. I think the biggest symptom for me, all of them mattered and compounded how I was feeling, but I think the biggest one for me was being 40 and going months and months without a period.
Yeah.
And them telling me, well, it's probably just early menopause, like just making this really large assumption based on no data or no
Yeah.
testing. And so when we ran those deeper level labs, we also did some other samples.
Mhm.
And I remember you coming back to me and saying, you have a lot going on with you,
Yeah.
but here's how we're going to fix it. And I was willing to do anything at that point. Like, yeah, tell me, I will be an A+ student. Tell me what I need
And
to do,
you
and I will do
were
it.
an A+2.
Because I'd been feeling bad for so long. I was just so, I wanted to feel like myself again. I felt like a stranger in my own body. And so after getting those labs back, you had mentioned that I had Hashimoto's,
Yep.
which once I did, a lot of people have it, but when you don't know you have it, you're probably contributing to it getting worse. And, with it being a large factor in the health of your immune system and
Absolutely.
just how your body overall is acting and responding. Once I knew that, I could start tweaking my
Absolutely.
diet and
Yep.
the things I was
Right,
doing
I
to
do.
help with
Mhm.
that. Another thing was not just poor gut health, but leaky gut.
Yeah.
And when you started sharing these things, I appreciated that you took the time to really walk me through it in layman's terms, because once I understood
Mhm.
everything that was going on, it came full circle for me.
Yeah.
That with my gut health and the leaky gut, it was just creating this line over my uterine lining, preventing it from shedding each month for my period.
Lots
And
of inflammation, all these toxins
yes.
that are just spilled into every organ, your brain, contributing to brain
Hmm.
fog,
Hmm.
mental health fluctuations, like more
Yes,
anxiety, some depression. So it's like the picture started to become a little more clear why
it
you were
did.
having those symptoms.
It did. It all started making sense. And I remember, so again, I'd been having these symptoms for 3.5 years. And
Yeah.
I remember even going into a chiropractor, and he adjusted me and said, your brain fog is so heavy today.
Thanks.
Just from looking at me, and I'm like, excuse me? Like how can you tell? That's embarrassing. Like, are other people noticing? So I just started really investing in my health once I got the information from you, because I also remember saying to you, tell me what I need to change.
Yeah.
What do I need to start doing? And you said nothing. Keep doing what you're doing. And that felt wild to me. Keep doing everything you've been doing, and your
They were
body will
the
just
right
start right.
things.
It, but at that point, I was believing this lie that I wasn't doing the right things because nothing I was doing was working. And so it was strange to hear, no, 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 keep doing it. And so once I started incorporating, um, a small thing for me, but has been beneficial, is a few ounces of kombucha a day just for some gut health.
Yep.
But then incorporating the supplements that you had mentioned, tweaking my diet a bit.
Mhm.
Within 2 weeks, my period came back. It's still been a little inconsistent because now I'm 44.
Yeah.
So it's just the natural process of aging. But
You
most of
hadn't had
this,
it for so long, which is massive
yeah,
sign. Ooh,
yeah.
hormones not good. So
Yeah, it was like
definitely needs to
nine
explore.
months, I think.
Yeah.
The amount of pregnancy tests I took were wild. And my
Like,
husband
oh,
was
maybe
like,
this is the
no,
one.
no, we're not starting all over
It
again.
can
This is
happen.
crazy.
I had a patient at 52 get pregnant.
Oh
So
gosh. Yeah.
not
Well,
having periods, they were like, well, I'm in menopause, right? No.
it's a mind game.
I
A
believe.
mind game. So, yeah, I started incorporating the supplements that you had recommended, and the way I describe it is that my body started working like a well-oiled machine again. And I had to start building trust with myself again, though, because I
Absolutely.
had created some like odd habits just trying to control the outcomes. And I needed to earn my body's trust again, that I would be consistent in a lot of healthy ways. And it was nothing crazy that I was doing, but I was just scraping the bottom of the barrel, like trying to figure out what my body needed. And so within that too, that was a whole another journey on top of just general health and exercise, was the mental. And so you had mentioned that within my labs, I was showing really heavy signs of some hard things. And what I had realized I had a habit of doing was compartmentalizing and holding things in and just dealing with it when I could. And so I just decided to go full body healing at that point and did some counseling that really helped with a lot of things, that brought a lot of things to the forefront that just needed to be dealt with. And I read that book, Your Body Keeps the Score. And that was eye opening for
It
me, just
does.
to, well, it does. And I never thought about it that way. Well, of course it does. If I'm not letting it out, and just started doing a lot of research on EMDR and the concept of triggers
Yeah.
and why those formulate and why they stay there and how that happens. I love psychology, so this was a whole nother rabbit hole for me,
It's
but so
important, like the
fascinating.
mental and the
Um,
physical, everything communicates. So if something is off somewhere, or like unresolved traumas from childhood that we're not even thinking about
yeah.
consciously,
Mhm.
autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's doesn't develop in someone that doesn't have internalized trauma. Most
Yeah.
autoimmune diseases are linked to something
Mhm.
sometime happened and it
Mhm.
wasn't resolved.
Yeah, it's hard because I think most of us mean well
Yeah.
with the things that we do, but we
Do
don't
things
realize
for
that we're,
survival mode too.
yeah,
Like, you do what
yeah.
you have to do to get yourself to the next page. We don't
Mhm.
realize the cost of that until later on. And that's if anyone ever looks at these labs, because you never
Yeah.
had anyone look at those antibodies before for
Mhm.
Hashimoto's.
Well, and even, yeah, and they just, again, that normal range of like, oh, you're
Yeah.
good. And even my estrogen levels were, I think you
Yes.
had meant like they were supposed to be between this level, and they
Ooh,
were way, way on the
through
other
the
side of the
roof,
spectrum,
through the
which
roof. So
which can
definitely a lot of
cause
hormonal imbalance.
so much. God bless my husband. Um, which, those things can contribute to cancers. And
Yeah,
so I wouldn't have walked around thinking that I was someone whose insides were screaming at them and
absolutely.
so unhealthy, because it
Yeah.
may not have looked that way from the outside. And so it was a big eye opener for me of how everything works together, and your body tries to tell you these are the things I need, but we often don't get the right test, or we don't listen to ourselves, and then that contribute to other things, and we just attribute it to aging or genetics or whatever it might be, not realizing that there are ways around this. You can put things in remission. You can avoid certain things moving forward, but you have to be intentional about it.
Yeah. So after all of the implementations that you made, some
Mhm.
supplements, tweaks to your diet, working on the mental health, how long did it take before you felt like, okay, we're going in the right direction and it's consistent?
2 weeks.
Yeah, it was right then and there.
Yeah, I would say 2 weeks where, because the scale kept increasing,
Mhm.
and at 2 weeks, it started decreasing.
Yeah.
And I think it was over, I would say 2.5 months, because I
Yeah.
think it was 3 months
Yeah, it was
where
3 month mark where we kind of touched base again about that.
we tested again, and my labs were actually pretty balanced out.
Whole different person in a matter of just a few months. And that's
I
something I
felt
always
like
try
it.
to say, like, if you do the right testing and you know what's off in your body instead of trying to
Mhm.
guess, and you do what the body needs and it's telling you it needs, you
Yeah.
can see results pretty quickly if you're consistent. And you were
Well,
like that body student.
there's a saying I heard recently that I love, and it says, 3 months from now, you can either have 3 months of excuses or 3 months of results.
Oh, I love that.
And that was how I felt, that I had already been waiting 3.5 years. But it was within 2 weeks that my period came back. And I started to see all of the symptoms fall off,
Yeah. Even your
which
body
was,
composition. When you
yeah.
sent me that photo, I was like, oh, girl's got abs and toned
I mean,
arms. I'm like, who is this woman? You should be proud of yourself. You worked hard for that, and you're actually seeing
yeah,
the results of all of your effort. And
yeah.
even though you didn't make massive tweaks to your exercise regimen,
I have started lifting heavier,
awesome.
just
Because you're
because
getting stronger.
yeah, I've started lifting heavier, and that has felt great. But I really had to build from the ground up because of how I had been feeling.
Yeah,
And I mean, it was a total from head to toe, it was like 28 inches that I lost.
incredible.
So that's like arms, legs, I'm
Yeah,
including everything.
everything.
But my gut was the biggest. It was like 12 inches in my gut
That's
of just
insane.
inflammation.
Yeah.
And
Inflammation and
yeah,
all of the bloat too, just from
yeah,
having imbalances in the gut,
yeah.
which affects your hormones, how you absorb
Mhm.
vitamins, how you lose fat. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well,
So,
it's been a journey. It's been a journey because I had gained, I think it was like 30 pounds, which I only ever gained weight during
yeah.
pregnancies. And so I lost like 25, and then I've since gained like 10 back,
Yeah.
but it's muscle. It's
Yeah.
like I still feel good when I look at myself,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of it. I know it was a really
Awesome.
long journey, and I really had to push through and gain some grit
Yeah.
to get the results, to
Let's just
get
say
to where I'm at.
perimenopause is not for the faint of heart. So this is how you know
No.
women are strong.
Ugh. Yeah. Well, and what's sad is so many women, like I had a lot of friends come to me and say, well, what did you do? Tell me what I need to do. And I would say, I'm happy to tell you what I did, but every body is different.
Absolutely.
Your body's going to need something different than mine, just genetically and just in
Yeah.
general. So,
Yeah.
but I would strongly encourage you to get it checked out so that you feel like your best self,
Yeah.
because I don't want to go through life feeling terribly all the time. I want to, I don't have to look perfect, but I want
Yeah.
to feel good
Yeah.
in my
Have good
skin.
quality of
And
life and have
yeah,
energy to get
yes.
around and run after your kids and enjoy
Hmm.
things. No,
It
that's
matters.
fair. Absolutely. Yeah.
Matters.
Quality
Yeah.
of life. So let me ask you this. If a woman was considering joining our program but was on the fence, what's something that you would tell her based off of how your experience has been?
I think just go back to that saying that I said just a minute ago. You can have 3 months of results or 3 months of excuses. And there's all these crossroads in life. And I'm someone who just kind of charges after things because I don't want
I
to
love
look
that
back
about you.
and say, thank you, for better or worse. I don't want to look back and say, oh gosh, I wish I would have done that, or I had this dream and just never thought I could. I'm my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I want to be my own, I want to be my best supporter and cheerleader in life. And like, you know what? We don't know a lot about this. Let's figure it out along the way. Let's just charge after it. Why not? And so hopefully my kids will see that it's important to fight for yourself in a healthy way
Yeah.
so that you can show up for people and at the very least inspire someone. Because
Absolutely.
if, and I've talked to friends who are like, well, I just don't know if I want to or have the energy. You're
Yeah.
like, well, right now you don't, but why not? Like, don't
Baby
you want to feel
steps.
better? And sadly, I think we just get into a space where we get used to not feeling well,
Yeah.
and you just settle for that. And I personally don't want to live life that way. So I would just say, charge after it. You won't regret it, and you're going to feel great, and you'll get the answers. Maybe not that you want to hear, but the answers that you need
Yeah.
to heal and to move through things and to, like you said, be actively involved with your kids, with your family, with your
Mhm.
job, so that you can show up feeling your best and not feel like they're just getting the leftovers.
Absolutely. So, like, to summarize, this is the intuition part. I really loved that and how you are advocating for yourself. If you
Mhm.
feel like something is off, keep seeking out those
Yeah.
answers. If anyone wants to work with us, if they don't know where to start, we can
Mhm.
add a description in the description box. We'll put our links so they can
Mhm.
potentially have an intro consult with us. But Heather, thank you so much. Thank you for
My
sharing your
pleasure.
story. Thank you for being a woman of consistency, for being the A+ student, the gold stars, for trusting the process, even though you had been failed so many times before,
Yeah.
you didn't give up on yourself. That's the hardest part. Just believe that there is a better outcome, and having that hope is so important.
Well, and all great things come from failure because it gives you, I mean, electricity, like just
Yeah,
certain things like, there was so much failure before they achieved that success. And so you have to fight for yourself. And that's when I realized not my husband, not my kids, not my parents, not my friends, like no one's going to advocate for me the way I will.
absolutely.
And I'm grateful that I did. And I'm very grateful for you
I'm
that
grateful
you
to have
helped me
met
get those
you.
answers. So thank you.
Thank you.